Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Now, in the last few videos, we broke down how Tethers, immigrants, and foreign-born elites have been strategically used to dilute, replace, and redirect the legacy of foundational Black Americans. But now the infiltration has taken root. It's become ever so present, and it's been going on for probably the past 40 years or so, but right inside the institutions of our ancestors that they built, HBCUs, a lot of fraternities and sororities. HBCUs born out of segregation, built by formerly enslaved people and their descendants, which are us, have become open season for Tether infiltration, because between 1990 and 2022, the number of African and Caribbean students enrolled in HBCUs rose by more than 200%. Now, that information is coming from the United States Department of Education, National Center for Education Statistics. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if they respected the foundation that they're walking on, but many of these students arrive, reap the benefits of students before them. They reap the benefits of scholarships established by our ancestors, our mothers and fathers, our grandfathers and grandmothers. They turn around and they deem the very group whose fight created the opportunity, they very demean those very same people. They say things like Africans work harder, Caribbeans are more disciplined, Black Americans are lazy. I don't know how anyone in America, if you're not on Social Security, welfare, EBT, could be lazy, because in some regards, America is a capitalist society. In other regards, it can be looked at though as a social society. But Black Americans, majority of us are in the middle class, and that's not by government assistance. So those are not cultural misunderstanding, they are colonial echoes. That is the ideology of white supremacy. And when those same students graduate, they carry the contempt into the corporate boardrooms and governmental offices. Because here's the real betrayal: the grant money, from the GI Bill to the Title III of the Higher Education Act to the UCF and Thurgood Marshall College Fund. These initiatives were fought. They were fought for and funded because foundational Black Americans were locked out of education and economic opportunity. Yet, when you look at the IRS and Department of Education data, over 32% of grants labeled Black student aid between 2018 and 2023 were awarded to non-FBA students, primarily from Africa and the Caribbean. Again, the Education Data Initiative of 2023 will let you know where to find that information, because that's not inclusion, as they would say in DEI and quote unquote affirmative action. That's institutional colonization, because the same thing happened in corporate America after 2020. The $50 billion in racial equity pledges by Fortune 500 companies, remember that? By 2023, Bloomberg reported that most of those funds went to minority initiative run by multi-ethnic boards, not to foundational Black Americans. They always hide under the guise of all these other associated ethnic groups, but never to the people that the funds and equity was meant for. This is the illusion of progress, Black faces, white policies, and no reparations. Now, let's talk about, and I don't want to hit you guys too hard with this, but the so-called Divine Nine. The sacred social networks that once served as the heartbeat of Black leadership. It was founded between 1906 and 1963. These organizations were more than letters. They were lifelines. They cultivated our thinkers, our activists, our educators, and our lawmakers. When we look at the Divine Nine and the history of African-American fraternities and sororities, if you look up Lawrence Ross and the work that he has done, we now see that Tethers see them as launch pads, not for service, but for access. They get inside of the Divine Nine. They get inside of these Black fraternities and these Black sororities, and they use them for launching pads. They use them for access. They don't use the services that our ancestors was built for us to have a foot in the door. They join to build resumes. That's why they're in, for connections and networks, not relationships. They don't want your friendship, these tethers. They join to build resumes. They pledge to network, not nurtured. And once they reach those coveted corporate positions. They expose their true alliances. They say, my parents are from Ghana. You never knew that before, did you not? My family came from Jamaica. We value education more than foundational Black Americans. And suddenly the room full of Black excellence no longer represents foundational Black America. It's a global showcase with our name, but their narrative. When these individuals step into power, they legislate or lobby for FBA justice. They draft diversity initiatives that include everyone but us. They back immigration bill that funnel resources into new arrivals while ignoring the descendants of those who built the nation. Look at the way the government is now. Are we shut down because Democrats want illegal immigrants to receive Medicaid? Is that it? I'm just asking questions because, again, do not forget, whether it be Kamala girls, aka the vice president, or let alone the former vice president of these United States of America, her and Joe Biden are the ones who ushered in hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants and did not receive any support from foundational Black Americans, to the point where Republicans and white people around the nation were thinking that Black Americans were on board with illegal immigration. No. I know. For a very long time, foundational Black Americans have been voting Democrat, voting blue, no matter who, voting blue down ballot. That is because of the work of our prestigious master teacher, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and his work with Lyndon B. Johnson. But as Lyndon B. Johnson said, and excuse my language, if we sign this Civil Rights Act into law, we will have them niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And ladies and gentlemen, we are already over 60 years. It's not that I'm pushing anyone to the Republican Party because I'm not a Republican, but I do in some regards that is separate from conservatism. From Republican, but a conservative mindset, because that is the so-called traditional family, man, woman, and child, doing for self, working hard, having progress, the so-called American dream. But why do you think all these immigrants are now in the country? Those damn tethers. See, they back immigration bills that funnel resources into new arrivals while ignoring the descendants of those who built the nation. Now, in 2022, Congress passed over $120 billion in business and housing grants tied to minority participation. But according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, less than 2% of that reached lineage-based foundational Black Americans who are the descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. Because on paper, Black now includes everyone from Lagos to London, and every dollar diluted is a debt denied. Tethers don't come with chains. They come with credentials. They come with degrees and accents and titles. They've mastered the art of symbolic proximity. I'm one of you until I'm not. I'm one of you on social media. And now, when you look around social media, you see all of these anti-FBA tethers who are making a digital dime based upon, once again, using us as a stepping stone so they can get the bag. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I doubt if I am. They hide behind the shared color, but not the shared cause. They hide behind the shared color, but not the shared struggle. See, these are the things that we're not really thinking about, because they're in these HBCUs, they're in these fraternities and sororities. And even my son, he's a Kappa. He's like, oh yeah, as if they were friends. But then when his buddy got that six-figure job and he didn't, and he turned up his nose like, well, I'm from Nigeria, and so, we have customs, traditions, and culture, and you Foundation Black America is really down. And my son was like, what, Foundation Black? He didn't even really know about it. It's not like I push my videos on my son, who's 25 years of age, about to be 26, but nonetheless, I digress. But I'm just giving you real, true, factual information. Because in these tethers rise, they reinforce a global hierarchy, one that celebrates foreign Black success while silencing foundational Black struggle. It's the same logic that made white supremacy global. Now it's wearing a darker face. I can't believe they will say some of the things that they say as if they wasn't colonialized. And they share the same ideology of their white paymasters. So Here's the warning. Be careful who you call brother or sister in that fraternity or sorority. Be cautious who you share your business in those corporate diversity programs, and be observant of those who wave the flag of Pan-Africanism while erasing your lineage, that disrespects your lineage, that use the white supremacy's talking points and ideology, all the while trying to hold your hand. Now, granted, every person that is from the Caribbean, that's from Africa, or the Black Brits, I'm not saying that all of them are tethers, because as I always say, those tethers know who exactly I'm talking to, because we're not enemies, but we must know who's on assignment and who's are authentic. Just yesterday on Monday, I told you guys, a lot of you guys have tether friends, and some of them can be taught, some of them can learn, and some of them will change their ways and the way they think about foundational Black Americans and our fight for reparations and what this country owed to us as a debt. And by the way, anytime I say reparations, the white supremacists and those who support the system, go ahead and put those hate comments down below. I'll see if I want to respond or not. But here's my point. You can't save everyone. Some can be taught, others are too tethered to the system that rewards their silence and their complicity. Foundational Black Americans are not jealous. We don't envy you at all. We're not angry. We're just awakened. And in that awakenedness, in that state of being awake, we understand that we have to, and we did delineate. So we see the infiltration and we understand the strategy, our culture, our colleges, our fraternities, our sororities, our fight are not stepping stones for someone else's success story. Because if you work so hard, if you were so smart, then with all the information and all the six-figure jobs that you got here in America, then why in the hell didn't you go back at home and teach your countrymen and women? Why in the hell didn't you go back home and build all these Fortune 500 businesses that Foundational Black Americans help? By chain and whip or by the blood and sweat of our brow. Why didn't you do that? We understand that it's an infiltration and it's a silent but yet loud replacement that's going on. And it's by the way of the Democrats, no less, because the Republicans don't want anybody except 15% of immigrants to come inside the country. And believe me, those immigrants are most likely from Asia, not from Africa or the Caribbean. But again, the Democratic Party, that silent replacement theory, who's going to be our next voting bloc? Because Foundational Black Americans, they are not waking up. They are awake, 2 eyes open, 10 toes down. Because again, our culture, our colleges, our fraternities, our sororities, our fight are not stepping stones for someone else's success. So if you walk through the doors that our ancestors built, you owe them acknowledgement. You owe them praise. If you profit from our pain, you owe us respect, because the house you're eating in was built by foundational Black American hands, and the debt of this country has not been paid. But for some reason, you think that you deserve everything that we work for. And I'm going to tell you this, the delineation has not only started, but we in full swing of things. And we're going to call you out, because if you're not on board with the team, then you are truly a tether and thus an outcast.